Hello, hello, hello. I am really excited to share an astro update for you for the month of June. Even though I wrote down in my notes that it's the month of May. Oh my God, I can't believe that we are in the sixth month of the year. That's just insane. That's the halfway point. Um, right out of the gate, we have some really cool astrology right in the beginning of June. The first week, we are looking at June 3rd through June 9th. And this first half of June is really interesting because there is a stellium in Gemini, and I'm pretty sure that this is the last time in 2024 that we will have such an epic stellium. Stellium is when there are three or more planets in any one sign. Now we will get Mercury and Venus and the Sun will all kind of be in close proximity to each other. That's just the speed at which they travel through the sky. But in this first week of June here, we'll have the Sun, we'll have Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and the Moon. The moon will just be fleeting. We have a new moon on Thursday, the 6th. So that will be 5 out of the 10 planets in Gemini, it's a lot of Gemini energy. But to have the Sun and Jupiter, there's two gigantic bodies in the sky in the same sign. We're not going to see that again until 2025 to have a bunch of planets all in the same place. They're Yeah, we've seen that a lot throughout the beginning part of the year. And this just kind of marks a bit of a tone shift, you could say. Um, Good or bad, I don't know. It'll probably change depending on the day, the moment, the time, whatever situations that we are facing in the moment. So let's see. On Start with the moons. So we will have a new moon in Gemini on Thursday, June 6th. I've already mentioned that there will be a metric ass load of planets in Gemini. Pardon my French. I hope you're not offended easily. Um, that will bring all the Gemini themes forward. That is just going to illuminate them. It's going to make them super prevalent. Gemini themes are connected to communication, to intellect, to and perception. And perception and communication are pretty inextricably linked. You have to perceive something first in order to communicate it. So you can evolve your communication skills all you want, but really, really, like how we grow the most and how we expand ourselves the most is through our perception and by taking note of how we perceive things and kind of like that lens or that filter at which information is coming into our awareness. So all of those themes will be really prevalent. Normally around the new moon, energy kind of dies down a little bit, but because there's so much energy in Gemini, I don't know that it's going to feel like a standard new moon. We've got Mercury moving into Gemini right on the 3rd. Everything else is already there. And we'll have Mercury trining Pluto also as it moves into Gemini. Pluto's over in Aquarius, which is another air sign. And so to have those two planets right in the beginning of air signs, it creates a trine, which is just a really harmonious flow of energy. When Mercury and Pluto are interacting with each other, that usually brings some depth to our thought process, some intensity to our mental operations, some like this drive to uncover things, to get below the surface. We can be a little bit more probing. We can be a little bit more like fixated on things when Mercury interacts with Pluto. Which is just, it's going to be fleeting. I don't think that energy is going to stick around for long because that's very opposite of how Mercury in Gemini likes to operate. So Mercury is the planet of our mental operations, our thought process, how we communicate, how we organize, how we learn, all of that stuff that has to do with the space between our ears is going to be connected with Mercury. So when we can look to see where Mercury is in the sky to get an idea of what like the collective tone of conversation will be like, but we can also look to see where our Mercury was or where Mercury was placed in the sky at the moment of our birth. We can also do that for our loved ones, our significant others, our siblings, our family members, and get an idea of their thought style, their communication style, their uh like standard mental operation, that kind of process that goes on between their ears. When Mercury is in Gemini, so this is overall, like this is where Mercury will be until the end of June. It goes into Cancer June 17th. So just for a couple more weeks. But this is the general undertone of communication. When Mercury is in Gemini, it produces a generally quick-witted kind of energy. Sometimes that can be scattered with a wide array of interests. So like interested in everything, curious about everything, wanting to learn, wanting to read. I always think about people that like will pick up anything to read it. You pick up the shampoo and turn it around and look at the back of the shampoo bottle, and just like all like wanting to put their finger in every pie that they can find. Um, Rarely dive too deeply into any one topic. It's a mildly superficial learning style. So if you're born with this energy, this is really useful to know, but it's also just, it's good to know for the tone of mental ops for this time being. People with Mercury and Gemini tend to learn best in a stimulating environment. Pretty fast learners, but tend to get bored easily. So if you are noticing that you are getting bored easily, if it's hard for you to keep your focus on any one thing for too long, you can tip your hat off to Mercury being in Gemini. Maybe this is a month where you decide you're gonna learn 5 things and you just spread your attention between all of them. I don't know how it will work best for you, but I know that it's difficult to make a different decision if you're not paying attention. So just be curious about your mental ops, how thoughts are moving through your brain, how your focus is, your concentration is. Um, if you're picking things up easily or if it's a little bit more tricky. Mercury and Gemini can be quite impressionable. Gemini is very closely connected with the immediate environment around it. So people born with Mercury and Gemini, or people existing under Mercury and Gemini as we are right now, probably going to pick up more information from your environment than the normal or than typical. Process information very quickly, and this can sometimes look like nervous energy or restless energy, like almost like information overload, like too much is coming in, the gears in my brain are clogging, I don't know how to deal with this. There is a bias towards logic when Mercury is in Gemini. There's less emphasis on feeling and emotion, and you're less likely to want to like feel your way through things or feel things out. um, don't often rely on intuition or considering emotion when making decisions. And for those of us that are deeply meshed in with feeling or emotion, it can feel a little bit cold. It can feel a little bit like they're lacking heart in what they're saying, or they're not being considerate of feeling and how things are going to feel when they make that decision. And they can seem really detached. It can feel a little bit cool, a little bit cold. And I don't know that that's actually the case. I think that that is part of our perception and how our perceptiveness is influenced by this really quick mercurial kind of energy. Usually Mercury in Gemini does not get too attached to its ideas because they're probably on to the next idea already. There's a lot of curiosity. When you're very curious, you kind of flit around from one thing to the other. They're really willing to adapt to their environment, and it's easier to convince them to change their minds by presenting new information. Mercury in Gemini can be a really smooth talker, maybe even to the point of being deceptive. And this usually is not done with cruel intent. A lot of times, this is just because their mind is moving faster than their mouth can keep up with. And so maybe they're thinking one thing and different words are coming out of their mouth. And so that's just what happens when we go really, really fast. We're more likely to make mistakes or misrepresent what we're trying to say. Um, and it's usually done with a sense of humor as well. So at any point during this month, if you feel like you need to clear things up, please take it upon yourself to do that. Make sure, like, stop the speed and say, okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Or that didn't make a lot of sense. Can we go back to that and make sure that I understand clearly what you're trying to communicate? Um, Mercury in Gemini is usually pretty quick to be able to identify weakness and play around with it a little bit. They have a quicker decision-making style than other Mercury placements. When, let's see, previously Mercury was in Taurus, which was a little bit more steady Eddie kind of a thinking style. So that would have been a little bit slower. And then the next sign will be Cancer. So that will be a little bit more reflective. They'll want to take a little bit more time to process before they make decisions. But Mercury and Gemini is usually pretty quick at making decisions. They make them pretty well for the most part. They can they're pretty good over the phone. They're usually engaging speakers, usually have fun with words and have like a really strong sense of fun. Mercury and Gemini can also speak to people from all walks of life with ease. There's just an ease of communication and ease of connection. And this type of energy is very, very unlikely to be boring. So all of us have a little bit of a taste of that. But if you start to think about people that you know in your life, your friends, your family members, people that you've worked with, you can start to pick out the ones that maybe they might have Mercury and Gemini if they're really fast, really good at making decisions, really easy to change directions with their mind, curious and everything, so not attached to anything too much. You might not know anyone that embodies that energy, and that's okay. But just know that those things are closer to the surface. They're being illuminated a little bit more with all of the planetary placements. So it's a really good time to play with that side of yourself. You do not have to have Mercury and Gemini to have access to that. And something that I've been playing around with a lot is drawing on elements that I don't naturally have. So I don't naturally have a whole bunch of fire in my natal chart, but I have a bunch of friends that do. So I've had different situations in my life recently where I want to be a little bit more fiery. I want to be a little bit more blunt. I want to be a little bit more direct. And so I'll just think about those qualities and be like, all right, fire, like, let's go. I need you. Let's do this. So you can do that with air. You can do that with Gemini. If you're not typically one to make really snap, quick decisions, this might be a good chance for you to practice doing that. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but your future self might thank you for sharpening those tools or for strengthening that connection somewhere down the line. So don't feel like if you weren't born with this, that you missed out on it. You can call upon it and ask it to support you at any time, no matter what. So that was Mercury in Gemini. Mercury will be in Gemini until June 17th. Then it will move into Cancer. That will take a little bit of a different tone. We'll get to that in order. So for the rest of this first week of June, we also have, so Mercury was trine Jupiter, which gives more of a likelihood of going deep and probing and wanting to investigate, wanting to research. It can increase your concentration for longer periods of time. So if you need to do anything with concentration or focus, this could be a really good time for you to get those things done. On the 4th, Mercury will be conjunct Jupiter. So that is a blending of Jupiter's expansive, abundant, larger than life energy and Mercury, which is your thought process and communication. It's a really good time for optimistic thought, a good frame, like a positive frame of mind. We can be really generous with our thoughts. We can be really generous with our words and pay people lots of compliments. What else? There was something else that I had written down. And of course, I put it in a different notebook for some reason. I think Mercury conjunct Jupiter can give us lots of bright ideas. Our mind is a little bit more open. It's a little bit more expansive. And that just makes me think of lots of ideas, big ideas, larger than life ideas, ideas to help us hopefully move in the direction that we want to be going, ideas that help us maintain a positive attitude or spread a little cheer. Yeah, that's kind of what that looks like to me. On this day as well, we have the sun conjuncting Venus. This is also called a kazimi. That's just a really fun word. It comes from an Arabic word, kazmimi. I believe that kazimi is the Latin version of that word. And it basically just means in the heart of something, in the heart of the sun. So there are two different ways that there can be a Venus cazimi. The first being, it's called the inferior conjunction or the inferior cazimi, and that is when Venus is retrograde. Venus is not retrograde right now, so this is the alternate option. It is the superior cazimi, the superior conjunction. This is when Venus is, it's further away. So it is on the other side of the sun, or it appears that way from our position in the sky. That I think of like the planet Venus just whispering sweet nothings into the ear of the sun when they pass by each other. She brings her feminine energy to the sun and shares sweet words and sweet affections and love and harmony and peace. And then the sun takes those sweet nothings and packages it up and holds it in its heart. The sun is very masculine, Venus is very feminine. So it's a blending of those two kinds of energies. I think that's the best way. That's the best way I can say it. When that happens, we are more likely to have aha moments as it relates to our hearts. So little epiphanies, little realizations as it relates to your heart will be illuminated by the sun, passing Venus. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. So all of that is going on at the beginning of this week. Our mind is expanded with positive thoughts. We're more likely to have a little bit more depth and a little bit more curiosity that takes us beneath the surface, more likely to have some type of aha moment as it relates to our hearts. And then in the end part of the week, we have the Venus and Sun interacting with Saturn, which it's different energy. Saturn has to do with responsibility, with duties, with structure and order. So in the beginning of the week, we're more likely to have these big, bright ideas, to have these big, bright aha moments, getting our heart, like feeling into our heart. And then towards the end of the week, we are given an opportunity to integrate that information, to do something productive with that information, to maybe build a new foundation using that information. So do the expansive stuff in the beginning of the week, the big ideas, the big picture, heartfelt moments, connecting with your heart, bringing your heart forward to the front of your focus. And then in the end of the week, taking everything that you've learned, everything that you felt, and finding a way to have some responsibility towards those things. So that could be figuring out next steps. If you had a big bright idea, what would the next steps be to get that ball rolling? You had an aha moment that, oh my gosh, maybe I've been spending time on things that aren't really important in the big picture. I want to get back to like my family and what's important to me there. And this is how I'm going to do that, you know, kind of like making a plan. So I just love when the planets work together like that. I think that's really beautiful. So that's the first week of June. Going into the second week of June, we have more squares. That can be more difficult energy when squares, all these words, trine, square, conjunct, sextile, opposition, they all show the geometry, the relationships between the planets. That's all. Squares are indicative of an aspect that is a little bit more challenging. It's a little bit more tense. Maybe it's a little bit more uncomfortable. And that's not something we should shy away from, because if nothing was ever uncomfortable, we would never make any changes. So I think that things that come up for you in the second week of June that might be uncomfortable, that might make you feel tense or might make you feel pressure, are really important. It's really important data points for you to be aware of. And because awareness is always step number one. You can't do anything until you are aware. So let's dive into a little bit more of that in specifics. On June 11th, we have Mars squaring Pluto. These planets are really powerful. They're very, Pluto is a higher octave of Mars. Mars has everything to do with motivation, with drive, with our drive that gets us up and out of bed in the morning, like things that we're really insanely passionate about. And Pluto has to do with power and transformation. And I always think of a nuclear power plant. I think I'll always say that when I'm talking about Pluto. It's really big. It has to do with mass media. It has to do with mass produced things. It has to do with where the collective fear is. And all of that is connected to transformation. So to have the warrior at odds with that powerhouse planet, they're kind of like butting heads a little bit. All of these interpretations can go many, many ways. But I think it's just contemplating the themes that they bring up that can be so beneficial to us. So one way that Mars square Pluto can look would be going overboard to achieve your goals. This is kind of like a ruthless, relentless kind of an energy where you are just unwilling to stop for anything, even if someone's being hurt in the process, even if like you're hurting someone's feelings, it doesn't matter. Like you're so determined to meet your goals that nothing else matters. You'll step on toes, you can cut people with your words. Relentless pursuit of power. It can be use and abuse of power. It can be like existential threats, unnecessary intensity. I also think of like seeing red, that expression for when you're so angry that like that's the only way you can describe it. Like I'm seeing red. Everything is angry, intense, powerful. Feeling like things are a bigger deal than they are. And the like power dynamics are likely to be highlighted. Reality of or fear of like covert power that we aren't even really aware of. Like how far back do power channels go? I think it's also important to note that Mars is now officially in the sign of Taurus, which is where Uranus is. So let's see, I believe those two planets will pass by each other in the middle of July, but with two Mars and Uranus sitting in the same sign, we're kind of like climbing to the peak of a roller coaster, where that peak will happen in July when those two planets are same degree. But it can open up room for unpredictable shakeups, things that weren't anticipated, shocks and surprises. This isn't meant to be scary, so I genuinely hope you're not feeling that way. All of that to be said, I think it's important to connect with your fighting spirit in some way, even if it is just observing other people, kind kind of wielding that power for themselves. Knowing that other people are in a relentless mood or in a like have their fighting spirit turned on, could just be really useful. Look for it, see where you can find it, see what it looks like to your own eyes, in others, but also within yourself. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling power? Are you feeling a drive to pursue what it is that you desire, or not? And if not, it's not like you're doing it wrong. There might just be other configurations going on in your chart that are softening the situation. Shortly thereafter, we have Mercury square Saturn. So more tense energy as it relates to our mental operations. This is tension between mental ops and responsibility. It can feel like pessimistic thinking, fear, worry, loneliness, feeling stuck around making decisions. It can feel like you're limited around your thought process. It can feel like there's a roadblock, like maybe the gears in your brain aren't lining up appropriately and it's really hard to get cohesive things going. I think that the beginning of that week around the 11th and 12th, give or take a couple days, could be really good for just working alone. You don't have to put yourself in environments with other people with all of this intensity if you don't want to. If you find that working with others can be really motivating for you, it can be really inspiring, it can push you to engage with your fighting spirit, maybe that would be a good thing for you to do, is put yourself in situations with other people. But if you feel like you're a sensitive person and it could be a good time to just opt out, to choose to work by yourself, to get things done alone, and just be in observation of how you're dealing with the energy at hand. If you are feeling negative, if you are feeling pessimistic, if you are feeling lonely, or you're not good enough, or you can't reach your own expectations, don't suffer in silence. Reach out to someone. Let someone know that you're having a hard time. Reach out to someone that is nurturing and that can help you to see things as they are instead of through this limited perspective that you're looking through. Remember that this energy will pass and that you're not doomed to feel this way forever. You can also lean into just being selective with what you fill your brain with. Be selective with what the words, like what music you're listening to, what words are they saying? My brother played me a song recently and the words were so sad. I was like, Thomas, please don't ever listen to this again. It was like something like, I am unworthy. And that was part of the chorus. And I was like, I know he has a beautiful singing voice, but you don't need those words bouncing around in your head. So if you're not a person that listens to lyrics, listen to the lyrics, listen to what you're populating your brain space with, because it might sound beautiful. The instruments might be great. The singer's voice might be really talented, but like, if you're feeling lonely or you're feeling like you don't measure up and you have this backing track of I am unworthy, get that out. You don't need to make yourself feel worse. Swap it out for something that's really uplifting, that's really positive. They have so many different kinds of like affirmation tracks and meditations on Spotify now. So those are just good ways to, if you are feeling stuck in the pessimistic energy. After that, a couple days around June 14th, we have the Sun conjunct Mercury, which is another Cazimi. Again, this is a superior conjunction because Mercury is not retrograde. So this is when Mercury is further away. It is out past, it looks like it's further away than the sun. It is out like in the outskirts of the cosmos. And I like to think that Mercury is gathering up intel, data, information from the furthest reaches of the galaxy to beam back to you, back to home. I think that when I was born with the sun conjunct Mercury, and there have been times, there have been transits when sun and Mercury conjunct, and I feel overstimulated in my brain. Like everything, I can't, I can't focus. There's too much restlessness. There's too much, I can't. It's like I need to take a nap. Like it's just too much. But I've had sun Mercury conjunctions where all systems are go. Everything is working really well. I think that there's a lot of factors that play into how this is going to affect you. So just be curious. I think that it could be useful to carry around a notepad or have a pen ready, or make sure your phone is charged so you can like leave yourself some voice notes with all the brilliant ideas that you get. Mercury's out moving around in the sky, far, far, far away, sending back big picture ideas. So if you have a pen or paper ready, you can write those brilliant ideas down, and you won't lose them. More likely to have brilliant flashes of insight. It's a really good time to experiment with free writing or automatic writing. And then any type of like, I don't know what the right word is. I want to say divination, but that's just the best I can do. I know there's a better word out there. But like your tarot cards, your oracle cards, like anything that can use kind of like symbolism to help convey really big picture ideas or like out there themes, could be really useful as well. Um, Towards the end part, so the 16th, on June 16th, we have Venus square Neptune, as well as Venus entering the sign of Cancer. So Venus square Neptune, that's another kind of like friction. It might feel confusing, it might feel uncomfortable, it might feel a little bit disorienting. Neptune can distort your perception of yourself. It can distort your perception of your self-image, your self-love. I think it's really important to remember this week in particular that what you think other people are thinking about you is not necessarily true. That's where we can get really distorted. We can get a little bit paranoid. We can feel a little bit confused or disoriented, or like illusions and deceptions are abound. And it can be easy to think that whatever thoughts you're having are true, and it's a reflection of reality, when in reality it might not be. So notice how you're feeling. If you're feeling weird about your self-esteem or your self-image or self-love, remember this is going to pass, number one, but number two, your perception might just be a little bit wonky. So give yourself some time to for the energy to pass, to see what remains and what is still there, before making any big decisions or any big actions. So Venus will go into the sign of Cancer on June 16th, and she'll remain there for the rest of the month. Where Venus is in the sky shows what we're most likely to be attracted to, what we're most likely to gravitate towards. And Cancer's all about home. It's all about mother. It's all like parents and mother, preferring nurture to logic and reason. Attracted to things that make you think of your mom or your home or your ancestors or like your family tree. All of that kind of stuff might come forward a little bit during this time that Venus is in Cancer. The sun will move into Cancer as well shortly, followed by, oh wow, followed by some of the other planets as well. So I made a Venus gift guide actually, for just different ideas of things that you can give as gifts to people, but also things that you can gift to your home. I've worked pretty closely with one of my friends who is certified in feng shui, and she is big on bringing gifts home for your home. So this is getting more than just like a bouquet of flowers. This is different gifts type things that would be associated with Venus and Cancer would be like seashells, waterfalls, family heirlooms, family photos, antiques, and maybe even like uncovering a little bit of the history of your ancestors. That could be a really nice way to celebrate Venus being in Cancer. The third week of June, we will start it off with, let's see, there's some more squares going on this week. Not as many as the second week. So we'll come out of, let's see, on June 17th, Mercury will square Neptune. This is when our mental operations have a bit of a tense relationship with our imagination, illusions, deceptions. This kind of goes along with what I had said about Venus squaring Neptune, where our perception of ourselves can be distorted, our perception of relationships can be a little bit distorted, our imagination can run away with us, more likely to kind of cave into illusions or deceptions, misunderstandings. That distorted perception can affect communications, and that can affect relationships. So during this time when Venus and Mercury are squaring Neptune and just the days surrounding that, clear language, I think, is the most important thing that you can focus on. Being incredibly clear, incredibly simple. If you're giving people directions, don't add a bunch of fluff. Just keep it as simple as you possibly can. The simpler that you make it, the less room there will be for misunderstandings or for people to like distort or confuse whatever it is that you are saying to them. Both of those energies, I know I've talked about the harder aspects of it, but it can be a really great time for expressing ideas, like finding creative ways to express ideas. It's great for like magic and entertainment and daydreaming and some of those things that aren't very concrete, aren't very tangible, aren't very measurable, but lend themselves very well to creativity. So I think that creative pursuits would be really beneficial. Also on June 17th, we have Mercury moving into the sign of Cancer. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. So all of us will feel this energy a little bit. You can also see this energy in people that were born with Mercury in Cancer. Mercury in Cancer prefers to communicate with feeling, subjective, personal. They might opt to not talk at all, just kind of be an observer to reflect on what everyone is saying. It's a little bit slower to respond than Mercury and Gemini. There's a greater depth of thought, more reflective kind of thought. They want to take their time to process. Let's see, they are faster to form an opinion than to make a decision. And remember a lot more than Mercury and Gemini because memory and emotion are really connected. Words are not as important as the emotion behind them. Gentle and sentimental styles of communication are more likely to shine. It's more easy to take things personally and then get defensive. And you're more likely to be feeling people and situations out as you assess them in your mind. If you are born with Mercury in Cancer, it's common for other people to feel really safe around you, to feel really protected. It's in the sound of your voice and the meaning behind your words. Like you just feel a little bit more trustworthy to people. It can appear that you are hiding something sometimes, and that can get you into more trouble than you deserve, but that is just the nature of having a reflective thinking style and communication style processing. Mercury in Cancer learns best when they feel emotionally balanced and emotionally sturdy and emotionally safe. They retain a lot of information and prefer to focus on concentration, prefer to focus concentration on subjects and approach problems in a step-by-step manner, feeling out an answer as they go. Mercury in Cancer is likely to pick up on other people's emotions while they're in conversation. Really good listeners. It can get consumed by other people's expressions and emotions and opinions and lose their own. It can be a little bit of a blurry boundary that way when Mercury is in a water sign. Um, Communication styles typically conflict avoidant. Um, and they usually have pretty diplomatic dealings with others. Mercury in Gemini is most attracted to like poetry or in peculiar or archaic language, like vintage words, kind of. They really appear to take their time when making a decision, but they often have to step away from others to absorb what they have processed. Like they're just very easily influenced by the people that are around them. So if the people that are around them are having strong feelings, it can really influence the kinds of thoughts that Mercury in Cancer is having. Um, Mercury in Aries or Libra and Mercury in Cancer can be frustrated by each other. Those are all cardinal signs: Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. Um, Cancer Mercury can feel like Aries and Libra Mercury are too fast. And feel like it can make a Mercury and Cancer feel really unsafe with that speed. And then Aries and Libra Mercuries can get impatient with Cancer Mercuries because they think they take too much time. So just notice as you're interacting with people, be curious about what their natal Mercury placement is, where Mercury was in the sky from the moment of your birth, of their birth. And if you butt heads with anyone, just be curious. Like, is it because our Mercuries don't understand each other? Um, yeah, I think you can gain a lot from that kind of curiosity. So, um, one of the other things going on with Mercury and Venus in Cancer on June 17th, those two planets are conjunct. Mercury and Venus are together in the sky. This really encourages cooperation. This is a very diplomatic kind of energy, a very peaceful, harmony-oriented kind of energy. Um, it's also really good for trade. Mercury, deals with buying and selling, and Venus deals with money. So I think of like fast transactions when I think of Mercury and Venus together. I think of charming conversations, diplomatic words, loving communications, charisma and magnetic appeal, ease in social settings, and just kind of like a refined and mesmerizing kind of communication style. Um, on the 20th, we have Sun square Neptune. We've talked a little bit about this already with Mercury and Venus square Neptune earlier on. It can be difficult to feel confident in yourself. It can feel a little bit more difficult to have like a really strong feeling about your self-esteem, because Neptune distorts your perception of yourself. That's all it is. It can be confusing. It can feel alienating. Sometimes people get a little bit paranoid, or you might feel compelled to escape somehow, like whether that is just like turning a blind eye to reality so you can fixate on your daydream or your ideal reality or ideal world, the fabrication of like, this is what I really want. So I'm just going to focus on that until the rest of this other stuff goes away. Um, People also do like, drugs and alcohol, that it doesn't, all of those things help us to escape our present reality. Um, so dealing with topics like this, whether Venus is squaring Neptune, Mercury is squaring the Neptune, or Sun is squaring Neptune, it requires kind of a strong connection to your moral compass and a strong belief in yourself. So if you are noticing that you feel paranoid, you feel alienated, you feel unsure of yourself, you feel a little bit delusional, or like people are deceiving you, or you can't get a clear view of what's going on, this could be a really nice, like come to Jesus moment. Like, okay, what do I need to do to strengthen my self-esteem? What do I need to do to strengthen my connection to my moral compass? What is my moral compass? Um, how can I believe in myself more? How can I believe in myself so much so that no matter what's going on around me, it doesn't matter. Like that belief is still there. It's don't beat yourself up if you do feel paranoid or confused or alienated. It's gonna pass. It's not, this isn't like it's not a big deal. It's gonna be okay. But notice what you feel. If you feel uncertain, if you feel that way, the universe is telling you that it's time to step up that relationship with yourself, to strengthen your self-belief, to tune in because you are powerful and you're worth it. On the 20th as well, we have the sun entering Cancer, which illuminates Cancerian themes. This is the mother, it's home, it is ancestors or your roots, like your lineage, family tree, feeling, nurturing, gestating, protecting, sensitive to the currents. All of those are Cancer themes. Gosh, my eye has been twitching all day. Just started back up again. Um, on the 21st, we have a full moon. The sun will be in Cancer, the moon will be in Capricorn. This full moons illuminate polarities, they illuminate oppositions because the sun and the moon are in opposition to each other. If you're born on a full moon, my boyfriend was born on a full moon. I believe my little brother was born on a full moon. It gives you like you learn really well through confrontation, through that oppositional kind of energy. So even if you weren't born on a full moon, we have this opportunity to examine two opposites, and the opposites there are Cancer, which is home, mother, private life, ancestors, like your lineage, how you gestate, how you nurture, how you feel. And then Capricorn, which is it is more like career and reputation and your public image and your role within the world, the responsibilities that you have in the world, has more to do with like the father and responsibility and structure and discipline. So though hopefully you can see how those two things are oppositional, and you can put yourself in an environment where you can just notice the opposition, see how you relate to one, see how you relate to the other. Where do you sit on that spectrum on a normal day? Um, these are not right and wrong kinds of answers. They're just observations to help you know yourself better, understand yourself better, to become more aware. Because I just think awareness is always step number one. You can't really do anything until you're aware. Um, On that same day as the full moon, we have Mercury sextile Mars. This is harmonious relationship between our mental ops and the warrior. So this is quick mental reflexes. It is strong instincts. Mental faculties operate really harmoniously with drive, determination, motivation. We're more likely to have a sharp mind, a sharp tongue, a quick wit, a fighting spirit, a better ability to act on our instincts and impulses with confidence. So if you were feeling a little bit cloudy, a little bit unclear, a little bit uncertain with all the Neptunian energy going on earlier, hopefully by this point, you are starting to feel a little bit more clarity, starting to feel a little bit more confidence. And if you're not, then continue to explore that. Continue to explore that. What would it take for me to feel the confidence of Mars right now? What would it take for me to trust my instincts so much that it doesn't matter what anyone says? Like I trust them. This is a very stimulating kind of energy, which is perfect for the full moon. That's a very stimulating time anyway. This is also very like honest speech. Sometimes Mars and Mercury together can like the truth hurts kind of a thing. But my gosh, it's better to say it. It's so much better to say it. I promise you. So just do your best to draw on compassion. Um, to draw on understanding. This is really ideal energy for finishing things that you've started previously, but you stopped or you put a pin in it because it got too hard. It's that kind, like we have that kind of availability to our mental operations. So think about if there's anything that you've started and haven't finished, and maybe now would be a better time to circle back to that. All right. The final week of June, we have Mercury trine Saturn, Venus sextile Mars, Saturn retrograde, and Mercury sextile Uranus. So Mercury trine Saturn. This is really good for mental work, for focus, for concentration. Thought patterns that are consistent, that endure, that are persistent, using your mind to build really strong foundations. This is longevity in what you put your mind to. This is rational thought, common sense, durable, systemic, or structured approach to mental operations. If a baby were born with Mercury trine Saturn, I would say that they have a propensity towards loyalty, towards dependability, reliability, and like sustaining. So this is a really good time to seek out older mentors, people that have lived more days than you, they have more experience than you, and they have more wisdom, probably. That's usually what happens when you've lived longer. If, hopefully you've gained some wisdom. It's a really good time to make long-term plans, more likely to have a serious frame of mind or good concentration, attention to detail. So again, this is all tying itself up really nicely. If you were feeling confusion, illusion, imaginary mamby-pamby land with all the Neptune, hopefully that provided some insights to you on how you can clarify parts of your life, like what parts of your life are lacking order, what parts of your life are lacking like a tangible quality to them. And then with Mercury trine Saturn, being able to stay the course mentally, to have mental longevity, to be persistent and have endurance with your mind. With Mercury trine Saturn, you're more likely to have longevity with what you put your mind to. So make sure that you're not putting your mind to stupid things. Make sure that you're not like still on a self-doubt loop after all that Neptune. You don't want that to persist, right? I'm hoping you'd rather have like clarity and determination. So think about things that you would like to see endure, things that you would like to see really build and gain some structure, gain some order, things that you'd like to see stick around for a long time. And from there, you can make decisions, hopefully that are going to help you get there. On the 28th, Venus and Mars have a sextile relationship. This is a really harmonious flow of energy between Venus and Mars, feminine and masculine, giving and receiving, asserting and attracting. This is a very creative kind of energy. It's vivacious, it's energized, there's like social energy that comes along with that, cheerful nature, desire to experience life to the fullest. And again, with Mars, it can come confidence. It can, confidence and like this assertive quality. But because Venus is there, bringing her feminine influence to that planet, if you do decide to chase your desires, it's not going to be very threatening. You're gonna have a little bit more charm, a little bit more magnetism to what you do. So if you are feeling like pursuing things relentlessly, it shouldn't make anyone else feel afraid or feel threatened. This is a really good time for self-promotion. Those birds are really loud. I hope you can hear me still. It's a really good time for self-promotion if you didn't hear me say that. Now on June 29th, we have Saturn stationing retrograde. Saturn will be retrograde from June 29th all the way until November 15th. So this is a pretty big chunk of time this year that Saturn is retrograde. This happens every year. Saturn stations retrograde at some point. Retrogrades, all it is it looks, when we look up at the sky, it will appear Saturn's been moving this way through the sky. It will appear suddenly like Saturn is now moving this way. It's an illusion, but it is a really good time in the month to think about, like, to do the reflective stuff, to look back at what Saturn in Pisces means to you and see how you're doing. Like, witness things, witness yourself living Saturn in Pisces and see if there's any room for improvement, any room to restructure, to reevaluate, to reorganize yourself. So when the energy moves forward again, that you are set up for success. Saturn in Pisces asks us to reflect on our emotional boundaries, our responsibility to our emotions, to our relationship to victimhood, where in your life you like to escape reality and how you like to do that, how or where you deceive yourself in your own life, and then sources of poison in your own life. Some of those things sound like they're really dramatic, but I mean, a simple source of poison for me is social media. I know, trust me, I know it is really valuable. It can be really valuable, but I get so addicted to it so fast, and it doesn't take long at all before it just gets out of hand. So for me, I think that would be a source of poison. I'm trying to think of other ideas. If I think of anything, I'll let you know. However, if you want to talk about it more in depth, please let me know. But from June 29th to November 15th is a really good window to think about those things and just reflect on those things and notice how those things are playing out in your life. Not so much just from this like contemplative cerebral place, but from the place of the witness. Like, could you look at your life and identify different poisons that you're keeping around, or different ways that you deceive yourself, or different areas that you prefer to play the role of the victim in, and just, watch yourself as you do those things and make a conscious decision like, yeah, I want to keep doing that, or no, I don't want to keep doing that. Last but not least, we have Mercury sextile Uranus, also on June 29th. This can be like exciting news, stimulating updates and conversations. Your routines may take a bit of a detour, and this is a time where I would really encourage you to do that. I would encourage you to deviate from the normal path, to find a new innovative way to approach an old situation. And a lot of the times we can't do that if we keep taking the same old approach. We need to breathe a little bit of life into what we're pursuing. If we take a new path, we're more likely to meet different people. We're more likely to learn new things. We're more likely to get flashes of insight that are triggered by something different that we don't see every day. So give yourself permission to branch out and to deviate from what is normal to you, in pursuit of new, in pursuit of being innovative and being inventive, and kind of letting your rebellious nature out to play. I'm going to put a couple different resources down below in the description. You'll be able to find my Venus gift guide. I will link my the podcast that I'm a co-host on, Celestial Curiosities, so you can start to learn some of this language on your own if you'd like to. And then my website. I've got a bunch of great resources on there, a couple different astrology books. I've got one all about Mercury. If you found the Mercury interpretations interesting, I have a whole little, like, it's a very small book. I don't even know if you could call it a book, but it goes into what Mercury in each of the signs is like, and then how they interact with each other. So let me know if you have any questions. I hope that you enjoy, and I hope that your June is simply amazing.